Hello. This video series is about how states create their budget. This first video is looking at how state level budgeting is different than federal and municipal level budgeting. So, most of you have a pretty good idea of how Congress does its budget work. And you know that from your American government classes and from other political science classes you've had. Um, State budgeting differs from federal budgeting in several important ways that you have to keep in mind as we go through this series. First of all, states, unlike the federal government, have balanced budget requirements. 46 of the states actually have it written into their constitution. 39 states prohibit carrying their deficit forward, and 43 states have limits on outstanding debt or debt service. And this makes things very, very complicated in terms of, you know, fluctuating revenue and things like that. On the one hand, the federal government has the ability to respond to um, y- uh, tax shortfalls by having deficits and then closing them in years where taxes are robust. Unfortunately, what Congress has done is pretty much just spend, 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 no matter whether it's a robust time or a lean time. And states don't have this option. States have to live within their means. In 44 states, the governor has a line item veto. Another way that states are able to kind of contain their budgets. So the US president has to either sign a bill or reject it in its entirety. In 44 of our 50 states, the governors can go through and cross out certain portions of the budget, and then sign what's left. This means it's a lot harder to get what we call pork into a state budget than it is a federal budget. Kind of, and pork is that project that you're an individual legislator's pet project. In 33 states, the executive can withhold money from agencies under certain conditions. So if the state legislature has put in money for the transportation department, for instance, and the transportation department doesn't need the money or is spending the money incorrectly. The governor, even though the budget is signed and this many billion dollars have been allocated to the department, the governor can keep the department from getting that money. Um, 28 states restrict the growth of the budget from year to year, meaning you can't have, even if tax revenues jump a whole bunch, you can't increase the budget by that much. And then state debt is usually used for capital projects and long term priorities rather than funding a deficit this year. So in California, we have a lot of bonds, and we finance roads and we finance retrofits and things like that with bonds. The federal government issues those kinds of bonds just to pay for this year's military spending or education spending or welfare spending. So that is something that the states just do not have the option of doing. Now, last week we looked at municipal budgeting, and I just want to make a couple of important caveats to how the state level budgeting is different from their own municipalities. The municipalities largely have joint executive legislative function, even where the mayor is independent. The uh, the city council or the county supervisors are much more involved in the process and the day-to-day running of the city. So when you have states are much more like the federal government in terms of separate legislative and executive functions. And so that's the first point. The second is that municipalities must take direction on taxing and spending from their capital, whereas states have independent jurisdiction, and that comes down to federalism. And there's not really federalism in the cities. So states can direct the municipalities to have maximum tax rates. They can tell cities and counties and special districts what it is they have to provide. And so, in many, many ways, cities, counties, special districts are much more limited in in the freedom to innovate than states are. And so, those are the differences between Congress, federal spending, local spending, and state spending.